This is from the 33rd team. And I have to thank all of the Sooner fans who sent this to me via social media, calling me a Baker Mayfield hater. Not really true. I'll get into that in a minute. But it is starting quarterback's EPA per dropback, and it's from True Media. It excludes last night's games. Baker Mayfield was number one in the NFL, 0.64 yards. Josh Allen was second, 0.46. Patrick Mahomes, 0.32. Deshaun Watson was minus 0.37. That's 26th, only better than Caleb Williams, Daniel Jones, Bo Nix, and Will Levis. Again, I defended Baker Mayfield when he was here. Baker Mayfield is an adequate NFL quarterback. But if you want to revisit, the Browns shouldn't have traded for Baker Mayfield, I revisit, well, the Browns probably should have drafted Josh Allen. But I digress from all of that. Minus EPA per dropback is really, really, really troubling.
Yeah, it's there's no other way to put it than that. Performance was collectively awful to drop back as many times as they did and to be under 200 yards and really have no productive downfield passing game. And like most of those yards kind of sort of came when Dallas was like out of neutral situations and definitely knew, that they just needed to keep things funneled in front of them, right? So I am not optimistic about it in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, to your point about the Baker Mayfield stuff, like Baker was on the cusp of being out of the league and has resurrected himself, and I will pull for Baker Mayfield from afar, wherever. That's great. Good I'm happy for him, but it wasn't working here, and he probably needed to go on a little bit of a self journey to figure out what it took to get where he's at now, and that couldn't happen in Cleveland for him. The Browns made the decision on Watson. They're going to live with that. They're going to have to solve their way out of it at some point. We'll see when that day comes. But, the fact of the matter is people have tried to stand up for this football team in the belief that he, when healthy and could play, would be good enough to be a difference maker again. And like my theory for the week is like, okay, well, he didn't give you any evidence that that's going to happen. And, I actually think he contributed a significant amount more cause for concern than anything else. So it's not in a good place, Dave. It's not in a good place in the slightest. And we'll see. He's going to have, like, the Browns are going to play him. Like, people are like, well, just cut him. Well, outside of the things that are happening around him on the legal side now, again, they're not going to cut him unless it gets to that point that the NFL steps in. But he is going to play until the Browns have proven that he just cannot absolutely play anymore. Like, they are going to prove to themselves before they end up ultimately removing him, because when you do decide to move on from him in terms of starting Jameis Winston or Dorian Thompson-Robinson over a healthy Deshaun Watson, you are done. Like, you are officially done with that player. There's no walking it back. So they want to make sure to the absolute certain point he cannot do this anymore because they still have so much invested in him. So if he gives you this inkling that maybe if he just continues to play, he'll work through this and we can see it work a little bit better in 25, then they have so much money already committed there, they'll write it out. But like, you have to understand that walking away, the significant amount of money it does, like he has to prove that he just flat out cannot do it above any level of getting out there and playing anymore. Like, I think a thing that you could hold on to is he's played so little football in the last 3 years that you could see him just kind of working himself back into things and getting better. And I think that's a part of the Browns' plan, is spending this year like figuring out whether he can do this again. And if he can't do it, and it gets to the point that it's so awful by midseason, they'll maybe make a move, right? And that would spell the end of this. But you have to understand that they're walking away from 25 and 26 with gigantic cap hits. So you're looking at a situation where you need to be 100 million% certain that you can't get anything out of that football player anymore. And that's why he will continue to play until he hits a breaking point.